All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. My name is Polzin with 9 to 5 Sports. Going to be getting into the Week 10 ownership leverage video here for you guys. Now, if you came and watched last week's video, I did say, Joe Mixon at his, he was the highest projected owned player. When I made this video, I said that is an easy fade. That did not end up working out, but the process was right. It was a matter of just being less correct, pretty much. I said, I can't play Joe Mixon at 20% when you can get Austin Eckler at a lower ownership, when you get Travis Etienne at a lower ownership, and also Rhamondre Stevenson. So it ended up working out. It ended up being a good week. Another thing that I said was, Justin Fields at this ownership that he's currently at is insane. You just need to play him if he's going to be that low owned, and he did end up being that low owned. So just another piece of content that hopefully you guys were able to take and use that information, use it as actionable information. I do want to remind you guys, though, that the ownership does change throughout the weekend, throughout the day, before lineup lock, okay? So when I did make this video last week, Joe Mixon was the highest projected owned player in the slate. He ended up being about the 10th highest projected owned player in the slate, to the point where he was properly owned. Okay, that is part of the problem with ownership videos. It's that for the most part, players that are high owned are going to continue to be high owned. But for the leverage rank system that I have here, the equation that I have going in this video, it does adjust throughout the week, and it does take into account ownership levels at each price point. Okay, so just so you guys know that, I just want you guys to know that. All right, let's get into it, guys. I will be touching on, the cover. Okay. We're taking a bold stand here. Let's get into that. Do want to remind you guys, if you enjoy this coverage, make sure to give a like and subscribe. That helps me be able to help you guys out. All right, so let's start with the quarterback position. Obviously, Justin Fields is coming in at a pretty chalky ownership here at 12% projected ownership, the second highest priced quarterback on the slate. And to me, that just seems wrong. Yes, people might have jumped on Justin Fields late. The last 2 weeks has been someone you could have looked at. I don't know if you can jump on him now at 6.5 at the second highest projected owned quarterback on the slate. Now, the reason you were playing him against Miami was because it was a great matchup. Okay, now, yes, I know he has Chase Claypool back, and Darnell Mooney is clicking. Cole Kmet finally has best game. It is a great matchup as well, but 6.5 does seem a little bit too high of a price for him, and the ownership being the second highest projected owned quarterback on the slate also seems too high for me. And I'll touch on why. So for me, when I'm looking at this, yes, he is a good play on paper. Like I said, a little bit priced up. Can he go for 20 DK points, maybe even 30 DK points with that rushing upside that he's had? Yes. Okay, he can do that. Miami has been a team that you've been targeting, though, this whole season. Another team that you've been targeting a lot this season would be the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? And Trevor Lawrence is $1,100 cheaper on DraftKings and $1,300 cheaper on FanDuel, okay? Gets equally as good of a matchup. He is someone that I guess it would be difficult to muster up the courage to play him, but at the same time gets a great matchup, and game flow wise, you would expect them to be playing from behind, and you would expect them to have to throw the football more. Trevor Lawrence is scrambling a little bit as well. And so for me, as long as Justin Fields doesn't go for 30 DK points, Trevor Lawrence at a lower price point in a great matchup could easily put up 20 DK points against the Chiefs. Okay. He has been able to take advantage of those better, easier matchups. Now, 17.7 DK points last week was not great, but at the same time, he didn't really need to throw the ball that much. Travis Etienne went off. Okay. If they would have had to have thrown the ball more, maybe he does, get 25 DK points and another passing touchdown. So him at 5.4 does seem like an easy kind of just pay down play. And I will say, maybe, just maybe, and let's not go crazy with this, guys, you could play Russell Wilson. He is running the ball as well, okay? Gets 1 week more to be healthy, okay? He did just get a pass catching back in Chase Edmonds. Maybe there's something there. Threw the ball 250 yards last game. And, look at his last 2 out of 3 games, throwing a touchdown and over 230 yards. We need more passing attempts, yes, but the matchup is great. It wouldn't be shocking to see him kind of use the bye week as a get-right spot, not only for himself, but for this whole team. I could see him having a great game. GPP-wise and stack-wise, he is a play that does make sense. Not a play you're going to play in cash, just so you know. And then just looking at ownership leverage, it is kind of crazy. At 17% projected ownership, Patrick Mahomes is actually coming in undervalued. And that's where I like this tool, where it's able to tell us stuff like that. Just because someone is high owned doesn't mean they're a bad play. Doesn't mean you should fade them. Josh Allen is actually pretty low owned as well. We know why, the injury stuff. Probably not going to play. It doesn't make sense as to why he would play in this game. So I don't expect him to play. That could be a spot in which you're gaining leverage to the field. And then from there, guys, nothing really crazy, nothing you need to go out of your way to play. Maybe Jacoby Brissett against Miami, a team that we've been targeting a lot, has a great game. I'm not really chasing that too much. I think stacking wise you can, but not really for like cash or really GPPs unless you're stacking. All right, let's get into the running back room. Looking at the highest projected owned players right now, Dameon Pierce, and I think this is strictly due to price point. 24% projected ownership on DraftKings. Gets a tough matchup against the Giants. So this could be a spot in which you're thinking about fading at that projected ownership. Now, he has looked great. He played a ton of snaps as well. That is a big thing to me. I love to see snap counts high, and I love to see the usage high. So yes, at that price point, it makes sense, but at the same time, maybe we can find other plays elsewhere. JT getting a high ownership share is interesting. Okay, JT, we know he's one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best running back in the league when he's healthy. That's the biggest question. It's like, how healthy is he? Because I don't know if he's 100%. That is an injury that can linger. Going against the Raiders, yes, Travis Etienne just went off against them. If he is healthy, even 90% healthy, let's just say, he should go off. But there's not continuity going on in Indy right now, okay? Another new offensive coordinator. That's like the third one in 4 games. Okay, a new head coach, Jeff Saturday. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I did that. It's just fun. It's a fun storyline to follow right now. And honestly, that's probably why the Colts did it, to bring some media attention to them. But we just don't know how that's what's going to go on with that offense. Yes, you would think that they would just feed JT if he's healthy, but that's the question. We don't know if he's healthy. Okay, so that's the worry. And we can see a lot of the running backs are soaking up ownership. So what does that tell us? That tells us that a lot of people are going to be running out 3 running backs. Okay, so let's just look at ownership leverage. Which running backs are going to be the best leverage rank plays? Nick Chubb coming in there. Okay, only 7% projected ownership. That actually makes a lot of sense. Going against Miami, okay, that'd be a great spot to gain some leverage on the field, especially when you look at Derrick Henry being 19% projected owned. And yes, Derrick Henry has been extremely consistent, and that's why he's popping up here. The snaps have been there, the workload has been there, and the consistent DK production has been there. That's why he ranks out well ownership leverage-wise, just so you know. But man, Nick Chubb being way less owned than him, that is crazy. Let's just show you guys that. So they both get about the same matchup, okay? And Nick Chubb could easily go off and break the slate. We have seen that, okay? Cheaper as well. You know, there's potential that could be a great leverage spot for you. We'll have to see as the week goes on. It could be a great leverage spot. Josh Jacobs popping. I don't know. I don't really trust Josh Jacobs. I don't know about you guys, but I just don't. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I'd play him. Yes, he's been consistent. The snaps have been there. The production's been there. It's a fine matchup. I don't know if I agree with that. I do kind of agree with Dalvin Cook here. He is priced up a lot, okay, and we understand that. And it is a tough matchup, the toughest matchup on the slate. At the same time, like if he scores 2 touchdowns, it's not going to shock anyone. Not exactly someone you're going out of your way to play, but there is a route in which he gets to 20 DK points at a very low ownership. Okay, so you could do that. Not exactly something I'm chasing, but maybe you want to throw him in the spot instead of playing like Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb or Josh Jacobs. Like maybe you want to throw him in the spot for that reason. The thing with it is, guys, we are seeing that the running backs are probably properly owned thus far this week. There's no one that's like too underpriced. Okay, that is the difficult part that we're seeing. Like Travis Etienne, I think is a great play this week. Okay, great matchup. The snap count's been there, 80% of the snaps. The usage has been there. We love that. Look at those opportunities. Almost around 30 the last 2 games. That is great. And obviously a great matchup as well. So like at his current projected ownership of 14, like that is probably right. Like you can't really argue that. But let's just talk about Dameon Pierce here real quick. Let's see if we can find some leverage on the field. There is potential. You know, David Montgomery does get a great matchup going against Detroit. Okay, a lot of people are playing Justin Fields because of that rushing upside. Well, maybe they should be playing David Montgomery because of that rushing upside. Now, David Montgomery played in 70% of the snaps, and so you can get about 70% of the snaps in a great matchup against Detroit, or you can get Dameon Pierce at an extremely high ownership in a tougher matchup. He did play 78% of the snaps, and that's what people want to see. Obviously, carry the ball a ton. Okay, and that's what people want. I could definitely see David Montgomery going off. Like that wouldn't be too shocking. From there, I do want to talk about Devin Singletary and Jeff Wilson. I know this video is getting a little bit long. I apologize, but I do think this is important. So my thought process with Devin Singletary here, and let's just pull up his ownership, 6% projected owned, and then Jeff Wilson, I'm going to touch on as well, who's 8% projected owned. Okay, probably right there for him. But let's talk about Devin Singletary. So my thought process is he's already playing a lot of snaps. Okay, about 70% of the snaps. We'll have to see if Nyheim Hines is going to be a big factor. Okay, this game has the potential to be a shootout. And like this is a decent, I know the Vikings on paper have been very good against the run. And and all that. Okay, their weakness is definitely in their secondary. But with Josh Allen being banged up, if he plays, like the offense should still be decent. But at the same time, if he plays, that should elevate Devin Singletary if his snap count is going to continue to be there, because you would expect him to get a few more rushing attempts. Those rushing attempts that have been designed for Josh Allen should go to a running back. And I would imagine it'd be their RB1 who's playing 70% of the snap. So like the touchdown likelihood is a lot greater for Devin Singletary with this Josh Allen injury. I kind of think it's the same as like Miles Sanders, like fringe RB1, if those touchdowns are going to be there, if that snap count is going to continue to be there. We don't know that for sure. Obviously, with the Hines stuff, that makes it a little bit more cloudy, but there is a possibility that that does happen. Okay, so I don't mind that. And then Jeff Wilson Jr., a lot of people are going to be on him. It does make sense. Jeff Wilson Jr. played in 50% of the snaps last week. We could see that increase a little bit. Gets a great matchup as well going against Cleveland. Like, it wouldn't be shocking to see him get 12 carries, 70 yards, and maybe a touchdown or something like that. Could be a spot in which you're doing it. All right, so real quickly, Christian Kirk, after being a guy that I'm like, all right, he's going to go off last week. I'm like, guys, this is your chance to buy in him in season long because it's a great schedule coming up. And he is very chalky. And isn't that strange? Christian Kirk is chalk, but Trevor Lawrence isn't. They should go hand in hand, right? Like, especially at Trevor Lawrence's price point. Strange that, and Travis Etienne being chalk as well. Like, people are saying that game's going to be a high-scoring game. So, interesting there. One of the two are going to get adjusted. Maybe Christian Kirk's ownership goes down a little bit, and maybe Trevor Lawrence's ownership goes up a little bit. We could see both those happen. But I do find that funny. I love that. From being a ownership leverage play and someone you need to buy on in season-long leagues to being one of the most owned players on the slate, third most highest owned player on the slate. It's a great matchup. It makes sense. Not exactly someone you should fade. He's getting into the orange there, ownership leverage rank-wise, but still not someone you should fade. Deontay Johnson being high owned, just great matchup. I shouldn't say great matchup, good enough matchup. Obviously going to play a lot of snaps with Chase Claypool gone. Targets should continue to be there. Usage should continue to be there. It is a low price point. Juju I love on this slate, should be high owned. I don't really disagree with that. So let's just look at which players you could gain some leverage on. And I wonder, is Tyreek Hill going to pop up? He still is popping up. All right, so Tyreek Hill has been one of those players that has been low owned this whole season. For the most part, and low price this whole season as well. And because of his huge price bump, he is finally, he's still not getting a lot of ownership. Okay, so could be a spot in which you're gaining leverage. Obviously been a very consistent fantasy producer. We can see the theme here, though. No one really wants to pay up for a receiver. Thus, all the top stud receivers are too cheap. They're not properly valued. So that these are great spots to gain some leverage on the field here, guys. None of them are over 10% projected on them. That's because of two things. One, right now people are going with the running backs. They're paying up for running backs. Okay, so that means they can't pay up for receivers. They're trying to find some value elsewhere, and that is why you're seeing some of those lower price receivers soak up some of that ownership. It makes sense. But at the same time, you can get some great leverage on the field at the receiver spot. And let's just talk about chalky pivots you can make. So obviously we can see like this range, guys, is soaking up a lot of ownership. At the same time, like Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, both in great matchups, could be pivots that you're going with. Allen Lazard, been an extremely consistent fantasy producer this season, and really over the past like year and a half now. With Romeo Doubs out, he could be someone you're looking at. And I hate to say it, guys, but Christian Watson week, it's happening. This is the week, okay? Not going to be high owned. Last week he sat out because of that Tua concussion protocol rule. Okay, got hit in the chest, wasn't a concussion. He is set to go off, okay? It just looks like it on film. The way that they talk about the offense being somewhat designed around him, it should happen this week. It is a tough matchup, but with Dobbs out and Sammy Watkins being terrible, he should be playing a lot of snaps, and he's at a low price point. I think that's a great chance to gain some leverage on the field. And I know I said that last week as well. He got injured, all right? He was well on his way to having a good game. So Michael Gallup does make sense, cheap price point, but you could easily go Chase Claypool. He is kind of high owned, I guess, too. We do expect him to get more snaps. I will say Josh Reynolds, guys, if Josh Reynolds is active, that's the big question, if he's active. If he is active, though, this is a great spot for you as well. Okay, I'll pull him up here on DraftKings. So we've been looking at like Khalif Raymond as a value play while Josh Reynolds has been out, and it has worked. What we saw at the start of the season, like when Josh Reynolds had to take over pretty much for DJ Chark and be that receiver number 2 in this offense, he was going off, okay, against the Bears secondary, which the defense for the Bears has been terrible since they made all those trades. It wouldn't be shocking to see someone like Josh Reynolds, who'd then be the receiver number 2 in this offense, have a great game. There's potential that he just goes off and breaks the slate. MVS, that's no, don't do that. I'd rather play Alec Pierce, honestly. Don't do that. Okay. Now we're going to get into tight end here, and tight end's pretty simple, so I'll just go through that quickly. So Greg Dulcich, for tight ends is soaking up a lot of ownership, as he should be. Great matchup, cheap price point. It just makes sense. Looking like someone you shouldn't be playing. Travis Kelce at only 6% projected own, obviously is going to be a very strong leverage rank play. Very consistent fantasy producer. Ceiling is very high. It just suggests that he is very undervalued because everyone's paying up for running back. So, let's just say you pay down at running back, go Jeff Wilson, David Montgomery, and then play Travis Kelce at a very low ownership. You could gain some leverage on the field, especially if he goes off. So not terrible, but typically speaking, guys, tight ends are always very undervalued because, one, they're consistent, they're on the field a lot, which all goes into this equation. And relative to the players around their price points, they're too cheap, given those other stats I just said. So it makes sense that TJ Hawkinson, although on a new team now, makes sense why he's undervalued. Zach Ertz's been extremely consistent. That makes sense. The one that's interesting is Pat Freiermuth popping up there. I don't know if I agree with that, but someone you can go with there. All right, I apologize for the length of the ownership leverage video, but I feel like I really gave you guys a deep breakdown of the ownership and kind of the thought process for this week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. If you guys want access to that ownership leverage tool, it is available. It's like an add-on to the 9 to 5 golf package. Okay, I did that kind of for you guys. It's $10 a month. The membership does include the NFL DFS cheat sheet, as well as the NFL DFS DraftKings lineup optimizer, as well as NBA DFS DraftKings cheat sheet and lineup optimizer. But once again, that is a part of a 9 to 5 golf package. Okay, it's an add-on for those people because some people want it. I was like, I think I can do that. Let's do it for you guys. So if you guys want to, check it out. If not, like and subscribe. That helps me be able to help you guys out. All right, thanks for watching as always. Let's keep cashing.